Now, this one is a very simple one. Now, this one is very practical. The rest of these things are very much, so far, they have been very philosophical, very high level. But I notice a lot of pricing issues are between the ears. You put your own issues with price out into your marketplace more often than not. And so I need to get your head aligned and straight and thinking about it from that perspective, right? Yeah, it's more belief than strategy. But let's talk very specifically about strategy, and let's talk specifically about tactics. The more you charge, the more you can pay to acquire a customer, period. If I'm in a market where I sell something for $500 that everybody else sells for $50, let me do it one better. I'm in a market where everybody else's product net profits them $50 each time they make a transaction. And I have a solution that will net profit me $500 every time I make a transaction. The easiest way for me to win is this. Tell a customer, when you buy my product, I'll give you $50. I'll say, hey, listen, you want my competitor's product? I'll buy it for you when you buy my product. You want 3 other competitors' products? I'll buy all 3 of them for you for free when you buy my product. Now, you can't actually do that. I don't know. Maybe you can do that. I mean, there are ways of doing that. Now, it's not a very easy thing to engineer, but hopefully it proves the point. If my product has so much margin that I could buy my competitors' products and also give them to you and still make the sale profitable, what can I do that my competition can't do? Almost anything, period. Almost anything. And very often that's exactly what we do. I go to my competition and I acquire exclusive marketing rights or some sort of deal to put their product in my product as a bonus, because they haven't figured out how to sell their product for what it's truly worth. So I can pay them a lot of money in their estimation compared to what they're used to getting for that product just to put it into my product. And that marginal increase in value has an exponential effect on my conversion rates. But the reality is like, you know, we have some offers where I'm paying this guy $50 for his product per distribution. I'm paying this guy $150 per hour of coaching for his contribution, right? And I'm paying 3 or 4 other guys, you know, $10 or $15 a license. If you added it all up, it's costing me $600 to fulfill every single customer that comes in the door. But if you're selling a $4,000 item and you're willing to invest $600 for each customer you acquire, you're still going to make a bunch of money, right? But most of our competitors didn't even price their products at $600. We are literally fulfilling for the customer more in terms of actual dollar amounts than they could get if they went shopping on their own. Because instead of focusing on price, which is what our competition always does, we're focusing on outcomes and value. And then because of that, we can charge more to acquire a customer. Now, in my particular case, I'm more of a fan of putting the charge in with the product. I'm a little scared to pay more upfront on marketing speculation, right? I'm scared to do that because I still might not make the sale. But I really love the sell that essentially says, I will give you things that you would have to pay for on your own for free that are almost equal to what you're paying me for my thing. Are you familiar with the concept of a co-op? So the first job that I had in sales was in this flooring store. So I sold floor coverings. They put me in the basement. I was running the warehouse, and I got very efficient at that. I was, 19 years old at the time. And then, I had this time left over. So they said, we'll put you on the sales floor, Jason. And so I started selling flooring, carpet, laminate, hardwood, ceramic, all that stuff. But we were part of a co-op called Carpet One. So what Carpet One did was consolidate and roll up kind of all these mom and pop flooring stores. And then they were able to put all their buying power together so they could go to these manufacturers and get like better pricing by pooling the money together cooperatively than any one of these small mom and pops could ever get on their own. So this is the first time I've ever been exposed to a co-op, but I'm thinking this is fascinating. And I think that exposure helped me later on in life in my strategic thinking, because essentially I, as a vendor, have far more power than my customer does. Because I can go to other vendors and negotiate things to include in my product, almost like a co-op for my customer that my customer can never get. I'm more motivated to do that because if I can sell a product to 1,000 people, I'm more motivated to go out there and put other people's product in my product. So think about it this way. Every time the iPhone was sold, and still is sold, somebody made more money than Apple did every single time the iPhone was sold. Somebody made more profit per sale, net profit than the iPhone did. Do you know what the company was? This company made more money than Apple every time Apple sold its iPhone. Samsung. So what? Every time somebody bought an iPhone, Samsung put money in their pocket. A higher amount of money in their pocket than Apple net profited from the sale of their iPhone. Why? Because Apple wanted to get in on this whole, I think it's the OLED screens or whatever these new screens are, right? But they didn't have the technology yet. So instead of trying to develop and build the technology in-house and then putting it in their phones and then rolling it out to the markets, they instead licensed it from Samsung. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't Samsung a direct competitor of Apple? Don't they fight over the same market dollars and the same client base and customer base? They surely do. So tell me this. Why is Apple willing to take its competitor and pay it, essentially, I think it was like $225. Every time an iPhone was sold, Samsung net profited $225, which is more than the margin that Apple would take home once you factor that in. Why would Apple do that? There's a lot of reasons why they would do that. But one of the reasons why is Apple has way more profitability and margin than Samsung does. They have way more invested in the customer. Have you ever been to a Samsung store? Do they have Samsung stores? Exactly, right? So Apple can spend more on the customer than Samsung does. So Apple is in such an advantageous position that they can take one of their most competitive alternatives, make them money because they're so much more superior in their premium pricing than Samsung that they can still get away with it. Now, obviously, in the long run, Apple is essentially putting it in place until they build their own solution. And the moment they do that, Samsung is going to take a hike. But because Apple can charge more and pay more to acquire a customer, Apple can do things that are impossible for any other business. They can literally make their competition, their direct competitors, rich in the process because they know the real competition is with the customer, not with other businesses. So the more you charge, the more you can pay to acquire a customer. Now, naturally, of course, this is also true on Facebook, right? If I can spend $1,000 to acquire a customer and you could only spend $100, I have to be 1/10 as good as you are in order to get a conversion, right? I could keep you out of the market if I can spend so much that you can't even advertise. And they do this all the time in big companies. New competitor gets in the market. So what do? We double, triple, quadruple our ad spend so they can't buy advertising. We silence them, and then they go away, and then we lower our prices when they go away. It's a vicious game, the businesses at the high level. I don't like to play it that way. I don't recommend that you play it that way. They buy them and acquire them too, of course, right? Or they say, sell to us or we'll destroy you, right, as if that's an option. Well, gee, thank you. That's what they did with diapers.com. Amazon did. But the whole purpose of this is the more you can charge, the more you charge, the more you can pay to acquire a customer. And I like that. I like that a lot because I can then, for example, go to my competitors and put them in my products.